welcome back. We're at Well Psychology at Sylvia Global Media. I'm speaking with Erik-Newton, and we are going to launch into another aspect of prenuptial agreements. Erik, you are so conscious and intentional in terms of how you're approaching this with couples. Could you give
Thanks.
an example of a situation you've had with a couple where you've had to navigate some pretty strong emotional uh, questions or concerns, and you realized, wow, there's some things that they didn't know that they didn't know, and that you helped them navigate.
Yeah, well, this happens in pretty much every prenup I ever work with. I think the entire process is one of discovering what you didn't know that you didn't know.
Hmm.
And the devil is always in the details. Couples often come to me and say, well, we figured it out. We want to waive spousal support unless we have kids, and he's going to keep the house, and we're going to live in it together, and our income is going to be divided evenly. And we start to dig into the details of, well, how does the mortgage on the house get paid?
And I want to jump in because when they say we figured it out, I know that with the money types that you and I have been talking about in our work in terms of the wealth psychology piece is, if you have somebody that has a strong warrior, or maybe even like a bit of a don't even question me, I know what's right approach. The other may have more of an innocent, more of a, oh, well, that sounds right. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense, without really doing their own due diligence about, wait, what does this actually look like? Or how is this going to impact me? So those different patterns of relating around having conversations around money can fuel a initial, oh yeah, we're in agreement, when there actually might be a lot of disagreement that's not getting expressed. So go on, tell us more about that.
You raise those two archetypes when they come together are so interesting. And I see that pairing very frequently, and there's one of two outcomes that always happens. Either the domineering person who's used to having their way, I guess you would call them the type A personality typically, who's used to structuring their life exactly the way that they want it to be structured, and the person who matches with that person in this instance and wants to have their life structured for them. If the domineering personality overwhelms the other and creates an agreement that reflects only what the first person wanted, it never works out well. Because what invariably happens is the other party starts to feel slightly resentful, and they start to experience this tickle of intuition that says maybe something isn't right here in the marriage. And I've seen that break up the marriage before it started, and I've seen it plant seeds of derision early on that then blossom into divorce later.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say the alternative to that, what works extraordinarily well, is for these two parties to use I guess you could call it the conflict that's manifesting, to go deeper into their relationship. And in that case, what always ends up happening is the type A person encourages the other person to articulate their perspective and to make sure that their fears are articulated and made whole and given ground and credence. And then they end up creating a premarital agreement that reflects both of their perspectives on marriage. And they lay the groundwork for a relationship that really works going forward. It goes one of those two ways. We try to guide them, of course, towards articulating their points. But in the prenup context, you just do not want to suppress the other side's perspective.
That's really well said. And when I was going to jump in, I was looking at it from the standpoint that we often see, and that I've seen in couples too, where this really is a great opportunity to strengthen a relationship right from the start. And when we think about your foundational components of your relationship, before you get married, the cement isn't quite solid. It hasn't quite firmed up in your foundation. You're still looking at, who are we together? How are we going to be in relationship for the rest of our lives? And there's a lot of questions that come up around that, in terms of how our parents were, in terms of what our ideals are. And this conversation brings forward so many different issues. I love how you said that about, these little kernels of seeds. And I often use the image of, before that cement sets, if some of those seeds get planted and take root, even if it's just slightly, they will put such cracks in your foundation that you will never have firm footing in your relationship.
Yeah.
And I've worked with, I can think of one couple I worked with that was worth, tens of millions, wow, hundreds of millions actually. And the depth of love that they had for each other was really beautiful. And they had 4 kids, and they were really successful, strong entrepreneurs, both of them. And the resentment that grew so deeply and was so rooted in her heart because of how she was treated, not by him, but by his father in particular.
Oh, that is so common.
And
I'm so glad you bring that up.
It was imposed on them, and she felt like such, an in-law treated as an outlaw when she had all the best intentions. So you guys talk a little bit about what happens. Oh, you know what? I'm thinking we need to have this be a next segment because this is really key, and I want to make sure we give it its due. So let's just take a moment to just, station identification. This is Sylvia Global Media, and we are doing a wealth psychology segment on prenups. My name is Emily Bouchard from Wealth Legacy Group, and we're speaking with Erik Newton of Heath-Newton LLP, based at Union Square in San Francisco. Next segment is going to be on when prenups are imposed.